Welcome to Vlog Thursday number 412. Wow. When you start adding it up, it's not like that's a low number because it's not a daily thing. It's not like 400 days of doing this. It's 412 weeks. That's a lot. And I think about that sometimes. I'm like, oh, the number keeps getting higher, but awesome to see people joining and commenting. I did this a little earlier. I know I'll get some of my European audience who, always ask if I can do things earlier. And this is Thanksgiving for those in the United States. So happy Thanksgiving to all those celebrating it. And I imagine you can celebrate just taking a Thursday off in other countries just as well. Just have a big dinner on Thursday and call it Thanksgiving. Why not? Whatever's fun for you. So yes, it's earlier, which is people not going, hey, Tom, it's almost my bedtime because you're doing it so late. As I actually have people that I have to feed and people coming over to visit. And winning for Thanksgiving for me is I like the cooking part. I don't like the leaving part. When I can stay at home, oddly, I like doing that quite a bit. So, and everyone can come visit me. So nonetheless, hello, and let's get a quick ad read out of the way. And I'm just doing a shout out to my friends over at Micro Center because they have some videos they sponsored before. They're going to sponsor another video. We have kind of an ongoing thing going. So thank you for Micro Center for sponsoring. And more specifically, are you looking for some deals on Black Friday? The Black Friday sale starts now at Micro Center, and they have a lot of great deals. You don't have to just get them on Black Friday, but you can get them starting Black Friday, and they have these deals going on all throughout the holiday. So if you have a local Micro Center, or even if it's not local, I think it's worth the road trip. Head on over to Micro Center and get some of those deals. We thank them for supporting the channel here at Lawrence Systems. So, all right, ad read out of the way, and let's talk about glad to hear more sponsor videos to keep the channel going. Yeah, it's been making sure that we work with sponsors first that we like, and second, that don't have any influence over the content. So a video I'm working on is some UniFi tutorials, sponsored not by UniFi, but by the folks at Micro Center are going to be sponsoring the next UniFi tutorial, which is half recorded right now. I got to finish recording it. That's, one of their goals is constantly to work out these things. I got Huntress as a sponsor, ConnectWise worked with us, and which is ideal. Like I want to bring more tutorials. I got to finish the MMAP video. That one keeps getting kind of bumped because I get excited about something else. The hardest thing as Matt's job would be to figure out like what Tom's going to be doing. And because if you ever looked at how I build content, you'd go, he's a madman. He just does things at random. And this is true. So Matt tries to wrangle me in because he has to tell the sponsors like, hey, would you like to sponsor a video on? And then there has to be a word there, not like whatever Tom comes up with that day when he's recording. So slowly things have been getting better because I've been getting a little bit more concise on saying what I'm going to do, and then we can attach things to it. So let's see. Fuel and snack stop mid-Atlantic. I don't know. Where would be? Is there? I've never really paid attention. Let's just pull things up. And this is just a curiosity I instantly have here. Are there islands in the mid-Atlantic? Like, yes, there are. So let's go ahead and share the screen. This is just, I never thought about this. Share screen, Google Maps. But yeah, there's some islands. So I don't know what's on these islands. I have no idea if there's anything on here at all. There's pictures people took. There, whatever this is. This is says it's a restaurant. There you go. This is like a mid-Atlantic stop. So if you're coming across, of course, this is not, I don't know, is this the way you go? I guess it depends on where you're coming from. For those that don't know, I live over here. So these are where people I know live. This is a place I like to visit. And it's not actually a location. That's why it's just a thing there. But anyways, so yes, there is at least one mid-Atlantic stop. That'd be much over here. I guess it depends on the trail you're going. I didn't realize just how not green this part is. Like we're green, 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 not green, green, and then not green. Interesting. All right, enough of that. That isn't what we're here for. Yes, we are the mitten state, as we're called here in Michigan. Best way to set up my TrueNAS scale is ZFS storage. We'll have 2 4-terabyte drives for Plex backup file storage. Well, if you only have 2 drives, a mirror is probably the only way you can set it up. There's not really if you only have 2 drives, you can either stripe them. Bad idea, because if you lose 1 drive, you lost all the data. Mirroring them is really the only option when you have only 2 drives. I've used ArcClone before. I've been considering using it to back up TrueNAS to 1 drive. I have too much free space there. I believe ArcClone is what runs on the back end of TrueNAS anyways. So technically I've used it. I've just not really used it much from the command line, mostly for lack of need. Pretty much all of my data that I have backed up, it's granted, this is not a scenario everyone has. I have multiple locations. I have my studio. I have an office in Southgate, Michigan. I have an office in Toledo, Michigan. And we have another data center in Toledo. So Toledo data center could be a spot. Toledo office, which has a lab in it, could also be a spot and has fiber run to it. And then the 2 other locations. So I just use ZFS replication and sync thing, and that's enough to get all my data where I want it to be. But ArcClone itself is probably not a bad idea. 2. So yeah, if you want to use ArcClone, I mean, that's all, to my knowledge, for all of the different options that are within TrueNAS for the data protection backups, that's all they're using in the back end is, I'm imagining for all of it is going to be ArcClone. Yeah, so ArcClone's built in, so you don't have to load it or anything. Sweden. Sahara used to be a C. Interesting. Thanks for open sourcing your knowledge. That's a good way to put it, as I've put it that way several times as well. Like, I believe so much in open source. I like to give away as much knowledge. As I think it should be very accessible for people to learn and get more into technologies. Do TrueNAS core to scale migrations work good? Do you still recommend scale, or does iSCSI performance still lack? Oh yeah, we absolutely recommend scale. The last time I did testing, and it's been a while, the performance was within percentage points. And I mean, I just didn't bother testing it anymore because in some cases scale was faster. In other cases, core was only so slightly faster. It was not like, even when either one of them was faster than the other, it was a few percentage points. And what was interesting, and I did that video, I think in 2022 now. So it's been 2 years since there's probably a bigger delta because they're not really doing any enhancements to core, but they're still refining scale. So my guess is there's even more enhancements today than existed before in terms of speed. Maybe I should test it again, but at this point, I don't know if there's even any reason to do so. And the reasoning I'm using to come to that conclusion is, if you were to build a system today, I would in no way at all recommend doing it on core. Core is just outside of the support cycle right now. Any word about the UniFi campus switches? Not much. Well, I guess, hold on. Which ones? Let me look to make sure we talk about what we're talking about here. So we're very clear on this. Word on them in terms of they exist. I've been testing. Let me change mine to this. I have not had time to test the MC lag, but I have these. These are hooked up at my office. I just been busy and haven't had a time to test them, but they work. I'm using them for just routing data, but I will do an MC lag on them and make sure that works as well. On UniFi NAS, do you happen to know if users can be authenticated via Azure AD when mounting SMB shares? Yes. Yeah, that's the reason for tying TrueNAS to Active Directory is when you set up a directory service, such as Active Directory, zoom it in a bit here for you. Oh, that's the whole point of doing this is so you can tie it to Active Directory and then have all your user authenticate against it. We have clients that have this set up. It's a pretty common setup. The topic of the stream is really tech Q&A and some networking and NAS topics. But as far as this, I might have to do a video on this because it probably isn't that big of a deal or as needed as you think to build a bunch of metadata vdevs. They help in certain scenarios. And like I have someone I was talking to the other day, they have 35 million files, literally 35 million. They are a good candidate for metadata vdev. Wendell talked about this before. It's only going to help, and he's got the video, he breaks it down, he's got a forum post on there. It only helps in scenarios where you have an absolute insane number of files. I say insane, it's obviously not insane. Customers have these type of data needs. But if you were going, oh, I got 1,000, I need a metadata, you probably aren't going to see any benefit from it because 1,000 files, 2,000 files, 3,000 files, still not a lot for the system to index. Matter of fact, that's I should probably look just how many files I have and see how quickly it can index them. Thoughts on using dedicated UniFi controller versus a Proxmox VM? I run my controller in a virtual machine, so that's kind of my answer. I think that's the way to go. I prefer it that way. I mean, I have a, I've tested out the UniFi system. Matter of fact, one of the things I'm working on right now, and I'll drag this tab over, like I like when it's convenient when you have something like this and a, like the UCG Max. I think this thing works great. And it's got a controller built in, and that's fine. So if you're using something like that, a Dream Machine, a UCX Max, great. But we run a VM in Zen Orchestra to control the UniFi system. And this suffices for me. It's running on an Ubuntu server. If I were to rebuild it again today, I'd use Debian. I don't remember why I was using Ubuntu. There was some reason in my head. But when I rebuild it again, I'll swap it over to Debian because I prefer Debian. Well, it only goes down if you don't have high availability. So that is a challenge that if you're updating your hypervisor, you lose the controller, but the controller can be stopped and it doesn't affect the devices. The devices will keep on keeping on, and they'll work without the controller being up and running. You just lose any stats that were collected. But the other option is get a pair of systems and migrate it to another one. I can easily take and just hit migrate. I have a few other hosts in here, so I can migrate it to another host and do my updates. If I care about the uptime, actually, out of laziness, I usually hit stop. I stop all the VMs because nothing I have needs to be up and running 24/7. Awesome to hear that you got your ZFS replication working. It is just such an easy way to back up. I mean, where did it go? Pull up my other one here. Replication tasks. That's how I do all of mine. These are all, replication tasks to all the different systems I have. So replication is the way to go. Success all the way along. There's local backups and there's remote backups. And I have to actually move. I'm moving some more servers around, but this just gets the job done. It works so well. I just store all my data on anything I care about, goes onto ZFS, then it gets replicated. And I don't, it just makes life simple. It's very efficient. I was thinking about being extra and going to build a couple of Proxmox nodes with K8s, not because I should, because I can. Yeah, if you like, I mean, I don't recommend Kubernetes unless you really have a use case for it. I prefer things to be simple, but if you're just wanting to have fun, knock yourself out. Was you taking using Docker for remote access for the Homelab? I would need something more specific because Docker on its own is not a remote access tool. So what would you be using for remote access would be the question. There's not a path to kind of answer a question I seen earlier. If you start with a mirror, you don't convert mirrors to RAID Z, but you can convert RAID Z1 with 3 drives to RAID Z1 with 4 drives because ZFS expansion. But the minimum you have to start with is 3 drives. I'll also give a shout out to, and when I didn't know they offered sponsorship, and by the way, and this is not sponsored at all, I've used these people. I buy things from these people. You can buy drives from here really cheap. And I've been, these 20 terabyte drives with warranty are on sale for $224. Wendell just talked about this in a video, so now I'm giving this company a shout out. But you look at some of these drives, and let's say like a Western Digital 12 terabyte, $114 for a 12 terabyte. That's a lot of storage for $114 with a warranty. They have warranty offers on there. What is the warranty on this one? 2-year. So this is serverpartdeals.com. Wendell just did a video he released yesterday on this. Wendell over at Level 1 Techs. It's worth it to get 3 drives to get RAID Z1 going. UniFi, not TrueNAS. Oh, UniFi NAS, not TrueNAS. I think the UniFi NAS supports 2 drive expansion. I haven't tested that, but I'm pretty sure it does because they're using MD RAID on the back end, so that supports expansion. I don't recommend mixing the drives. I highly recommend you end up with weird issues, especially around performance if you mix drives. So pick a size and stick with that size as you build it out. You end up with weird issues about the way the drives get distributed. And it may not even, I don't even know if the system would support, maybe it would support it, but I don't know how that would work exactly. Like if you have mismatched drives, normally it's got to figure out how to put the parity on certain drives and have redundancy. When the drives are different sizes, and I don't know exactly what they're doing on the back end with the UniFi NAS, but my guess is it'll only get as big as the smallest drive. But I could be wrong. Maybe I'll try mixed drives in it. But either way, I mixing sizes on drives is never, for RAID systems, it's not a great idea. I mainly work in enterprise. We're looking for something at home where it is overkill and have been considering UniFi. UniFi works great. Yeah, well, Azure AD technically doesn't exist either. It's actually Entra ID. So yes, there's if you're using Entra ID, not Azure AD, how well will that work with TrueNAS? I'm pretty sure it does. I'm pretty sure there's a way to make that work. I've seen some write-ups on it. I can't remember. I think we might have some customers using it that don't have an on-prem server. Oddly, the UniFi NAS natively supports that. That's actually a kind of a novel feature. Is they support Entra ID and Active Directory, so you don't have to do any of the workarounds, if you will, to get things working. Yeah, and I know how it works in ZFS. If the drives are different sizes, if you put in 4 8s and then 2 12s, the 12s will only use 8 of it to match the other drives. You end up with a you're not getting the full advantage of the size of the drive. How do you find projects to tinker with? I got a new cluster, but don't know what or how I should test it. My production cluster works fine. Maybe I just short on time. Mine are mostly driven by need, or client need drives them more than my usual need. My usual needs are pretty simple. I run an MB server. I have a little tool called Fabric I run. Sometimes I play around with Chasm. I don't have much I actually run. There's just a few things. Business-wise, though, we run into production requests from clients all the time. So my tinkering probably has more to do with that. My storage needs are obviously driven by my YouTube channel. More than anything else, my storage is occupied by all the recordings I have from YouTube. That is by far. By far where all my data goes is all the recordings. What do you recommend for 2 to 3 APs with UniFi? Do you need a cloud key or something else? You need the UniFi controller software, or UniFi server as they call it. So I did a video recently about it where I talk about and you can use the cloud key that works perfectly fine, or you can stand up your own server. You can run the server on your own hardware. The cloud key is a nice turnkey option. As far as the access points, the U6s are fine. The U7s are out, so kind of comes down to budget. Let's see. If you go to their store, there's a link down below that'll get you an affiliate link for it. And then we look at their Wi-Fi. They have the AC Pros on sale for $109. I mean, the U7 Pro Max is awesome, but just not needed for most people. You probably don't need any. The U6 LR is great. I actually think these are awesome. I have a couple of these hooked up that I'm working on the demo with, because at $179, they're not a bad price. What are your thoughts on TrueNAS recommending Storage A for cloud backups? Have you used Storage A personally? It's been on my to-do list to check it out, but no, I have not. I generally don't. My big problem is I have to spend money to test it for something I know I won't use. So I got to figure out how much I want to invest into spending money on something to do a video. That's actually where I'm stopped at on it, is going, do I want to give them my credit card and do the backups to it? I don't know. I don't know that we have any clients asking about it. So maybe they would if I did the video. I've used and I still actually use Backblaze to an extent, just for a couple minor things that I have, because it was easy to, well, it was an integration for something I was doing. I probably should eliminate Backblaze, because I'm spending like $20 a month on it, so it's not bad. But I got to decide how much I want to invest in the testing Storage A, because it's an investment for me, for something that I'll cancel later because I don't need it. Still on the old UniFi controllers, I had trouble saving data permissions for the Docker container. Yeah, I don't recommend the Docker version. And my reason why is I'm very limited into who I trust. I try to keep that at a minimum all the time, because there's no Docker containers from Ubiquiti. They're from third parties. This is the part people have a hard time with understanding with Docker. When you choose to have a Docker app that is not supported by the people that are making the application, you have now added another layer of trust in there. So I have to trust that the software updates from UniFi are coming down the pipe fine. I have to trust that the third-party people are also doing their job properly in packaging Docker. This is referred to as a supply chain attack. So if a Docker image is really popular and these people are doing it out of the kindness of their heart, and someone says, hey, I got an idea. Can I give you money to take over this project for you? Sure. Why would they do such a thing? Well, it's an easy way to poison the pipeline. So I'm always worried about who is maintaining that particular pipeline, especially because they're doing it for free. If you're not paying them, they're just doing it out of kindness. At some point, their kindness may run out, or the opportunity for someone to supply chain poison that, because how else to distribute malware at scale? And by the way, if you look in malware found in Docker containers, you'll be shocked at the volume of malware that gets accidentally or sometimes purposely put in a Docker container. So I'm always so weary about different Docker projects. If I know they're not supported or have an involvement from the people who are writing the software. Maybe I could do a video on, I don't know about how I use it. Probably isn't that interesting. I certainly don't use it to the full extent other people do. I just throw a lot of notes in there. So there's not a lot about LogSeq. I'll do a video on it eventually because me and Matt both use it, but there's not anything about it that you would see and go, wow, that's innovative. Mostly I've just copied from what other people are doing. And I put some, let me see if I have an example on the show. I don't know. I'll do it when I do the video because sometimes I got random things in here that I can't just dump out to the public internet. I could do the newsletter ones. I just use the hashtags and sort things. I'm not using, like, I've seen people who get real elaborate. The biggest thing you need to do is have a process by which you store data and not storing too much. Oddly, I knew what he was talking about because I seen the thing pop up on LinkedIn of all places. Network Chuck did a video about the building a second brain. It's actually a good book. I've read that book as well. And one of the important things before you choose any tooling is have a process. This is actually how I've been able to switch what tool I use for note taking, because I like notes in text files, and I've been keeping notes in text files for over 30 years now. So my text files go back to the 90s, and I have brought them over. You know what the cool thing about using text files is? I can still open text files from the 90s because it's just a text file with data in it. And that's one of my reasons I like LogSeq. Matter of fact, while the general public is excited because LogSeq is getting a database in some future version, I'm going, oh, what am I going to switch to next? Because I like things in text files. People overcomplicate it and spend a lot of time thinking about the tool instead of the process. Process first. Can you import ESXi into Zen Orchestra? Specifically, yes. XCP-ng can import via the Zen Orchestra tool, ESXi. I do the same, XCP-ng UniFi in a VM running in Debian. Yep. Yeah, Proxmox and XCP-ng both are certainly becoming a lot more mainstream. Do you recommend hosting UniFi network controllers a VM versus? Yes, always a VM. I've never used Syncoid and Stanoid, but I know they're popular. They're another good solution out there. Because I'm using it inside of TrueNAS, I just use their tool. Family starting to show up. Got to bounce. Happy Thanksgiving. Awesome. And thank you for the donation. It's greatly appreciated, Bearded IT Dad. By the way, go check out his channel. If you're looking for some career advice of getting into tech, the Bearded IT Dad has a lot of great videos on that topic. He might have even interviewed me for one of those videos. So definitely have a happy Thanksgiving and enjoy. I know you can't just hang out on live streams like me on Thanksgiving. Even if a cheap refurbished drive has a warranty, ultimately can it be trusted? Do you get past the configuration with extra redundancy, even more parity than you normally do? I have no problems at all using used drives. I bought a lot of them. Matter of fact, I've had more new drives fail than the used ones. Those recertified drives, I've bought a bunch, and I've actually had zero failures from all the ones I bought from server part deals, and they've been replacing new ones I had that were just a few years old that kept giving me problems. But someone had a suggestion because I didn't throw those drives out. I got a handful of 14 terabyte drives that have issues, and someone suggested the change in parameters. If it works, I'll do a video on it, because basically you have to use the Seagate utility and modify something with the head parking. And someone told me that will fix them. I don't know if that's true or not, because the drives aren't exactly bad. They just keep dropping out of the pool for errors. But if you set them individually in a different computer, not in a RAID, but format them, they pass. But when they're in the RAID, they only work for maybe several months, and then they seem to die. And I don't know why. They start erroring out. That's one reason I didn't throw them out. They don't have like a clear path of like, oh, this has bad sectors. But yeah. It's just supported. So is this SMB shares then? Yeah. Yeah. For if you tie, whether it's an TrueNAS system or a UniFi NAS system, and you tie it to a directory server, whether it's Entra ID or Active Directory locally, that's the reason for doing it, is so all of your user authentications will work. So if you have a computer you're using that is tied to Entra ID and you have a NAS you're using tied to Entra ID, you should be able to get to the shares without any extra passwords or settings or logins. I'm running an org at Michigan Tech. We are testing XCP-XO to replace EXI vCenter. Have you deployed Cloud Stack with it? I have not. But I don't. I've not used Cloud Stack. That's mostly why. So there, you can do Cloud Init with it as well. I haven't used that either. I just don't have a strong, like, for what we're doing and the things we work on, it just rarely comes up. But if you're over at Michigan Tech, just reach out to me. And if you have questions on it, I like how I've helped a lot of schools. We helped a very large school district move. I think they had 20 hosts. They're migrated to it. We've been doing a lot of migrations, but if you just have a couple questions, feel free to ping me on the forums, and more than happy to answer the questions. But yes, you can do the VMware migrations. We've done VMware migrations for clients, and they all seem to work. When did the world stop using punctuation marks? Oh, back in the early days of the internet, you had to really want to be on the internet. So there was I'm not going to say it's just the average people. The determination and technical know-how to be on the internet in the early days led to people who were generally a lot more knowledgeable being on there. Therefore, the people who had higher levels of education and knew how to use grammar. Then the rest of the world got the internet. And then Facebook became the internet for some people. And grammar has always been bad amongst the general population. It's just there's an awareness you have of it now you never had before. It's really interesting when you think about it from that perspective. It's not that people got bad at spelling. There's always been a large part of the population who was terrible at grammar and English, spelling and punctuation and all those things wrapped in one. But you never seen them write anything. I mean, sometimes you may observe them doing something stupid and whatever, but you never stop to ask, does that person write well, even though they're doing something egregiously dumb over here? Probably not. There's probably a correlation there. But now those people have access to the simple use of technology via their phone, and punctuation, they weren't doing it before. We just happen to see it now. I have an Aruba PoE switch. For some reason, my UniFi LRs drop and I don't get enough juice. I have never had that issue with any of my UniFi 6s, but I also have 0 Aruba switches I'm using, so I don't have an answer on that. I don't know enough about the Aruba switch to tell you where the issue is, but I can tell you that all the U6s we have seem to work fine. Matter of fact, because we use so many UniFi switches, we've even used UniFi switches in Meraki situations, because Meraki switches are so expensive, and the UniFi switches support the Meraki. The UniFi switches are some of the easiest to manage and really not that expensive of a switch to put in. So yeah, it may be something with the Aruba switch. If you have a virtualization box, don't bother with a hardware controller. Yeah, that's probably fair for the talking UniFi. All right, let me catch up with all these. Just updated scale, trying to figure out the best way to get apps back, mostly RStack type stuff. I have not tested Portainer or Dockage, so I have no real answers for what pitfalls may lie. It's on my to-do list to test it, I just haven't gotten around to testing it. I have fiber that does not support bridge mode, but instead IP pass-through. What kind of problems should I prepare setting up my new lab? I mean, if is IP pass-through sounds like bridge mode. So can you get a public IP is the question. Let's see. Thank you for answering the questions. TrueNAS core to scale. I met you at IT Nation last year. Awesome. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Huh. Someone else who's had more new drives fail than recertified ones. Yeah. True. The recertified ones have already been tested. Yeah. Cloud Stack, not on my to-do list. What is Cloud Stack? Make sure I'm talking about the right thing. Apache Cloud Stack, open source system to deploy and manage large networks of virtual machines. Nope, not on my to-do list at all. I miss ICQ as well. ICQ is great. I think this year is when it finally shut down. The UniFi Protect cameras? No, you know what? I am straight up impressed with how well they have held up. We still have at my office, and I should probably do this as a long-term follow-up. Whoops, not there. What the hell is that? Clicked on the wrong thing. So these are the G3 cameras, and we have a G4 Bullet, but these are sitting outside. They've survived many winters. We have a G4 outside here, but yeah, these are years old and still working perfectly fine. I've had no problem. I don't remember how many years they've been running. I feel like we installed them like 5 or 6 years ago, but I don't remember exactly. So I'll have to look up just how long they've been there. But they work great. I'm impressed with how long they've held up. I didn't see the VMware latest drama, but I usually avoid it. VMware, Broadcom's an awful company. You're going to have drama. Do you think SDM-based simulated WAN network is worth it for hybrid cloud testing? Guess most of the just DNS routing, which makes it questionable. I guess I need to know a scenario and what you're trying to do, because software-defined networking falls into a large category of things. Kind of everything is software-defined. I've never liked the term because everything's kind of software-defined networking when you think about it. Yeah, the UniFi Protect is getting, or has now, the ONVIF support. So yes, that's a thing. So you can use third-party cameras. This is just in general the problem, and one of my reasons for loving open source is the open source world. Granted, it has its problems, but the source code being available gives you better feelings of security. And on top of that, you also worry a lot less about companies that are fully open source doing bad things, because Citrix is the perfect example of this. Citrix decided to be less than good with the Zen server, so that got forked into XCP-ng. There was a big market demand for it, and XCP-ng is a pretty awesome product, but Zen server is an awesome product until Citrix did Citrix things. Citrix treated their customers terribly, and they paid the price by losing it. So yeah. XCP-ng seems much closer replacement for VMware Proxmox. Been running a 3-host cluster off of TrueNAS storage, 48 cores, 96 threads, 384 gigs of RAM, tied to 24 terabytes of storage, over 10 gigs. Absolutely. You're not that much different than our setup here, which I'm actually getting ready to rebuild. But yeah, the setup I have is currently 29 virtual machines, 640 gigs of RAM. Zoom it in, make it easier to read. Yeah. This is actually incorrect. It only has 200 terabytes, but there's a lot of storage. Yeah. It's counting these twice because these are both on the same server. So it's talking about how much free there is. But yeah, there's still 200 terabytes free of storage on this. We have quite a bit of storage. That's why this is why I don't need cloud backups, because I have so much on there. Yeah. We have, part of it's because we do storage servers too. We end up with so much. How old is this photo? I think this is where it started. This is, one of the first petabyte servers we started with. And then from there, this is the server you just seen the storage of. This is one of them here. That's one of the lab servers. Then we have these. These are more servers. I got to do a video about this. Those are all enterprise SSDs. Me hanging out at 45 drives. I'm going to get one of these soon because I need another one. And there we go. There's what they look like sitting on the bench when we have a petabyte of storage. Oh, what's all the hot sauce pics? We have, I have a picture of just hold on, let's see if we have one here. This is the firewall at our office. So that's the firewall. There's a closer look at it. That's at the end here. Because as you see, it goes on Carolina Reaper, Ghost Reaper. We even have a Palo Alto firewall. World's hottest chocolate. This fun stuff we do at the office. So, yep. Yes. Yes. Really tasty Palo Alto stuff. Do you need to change switch settings if you want to redundant switch connection at CB&T? I don't. NICs to 2 switches with 1 IP. Are you talking about setting up MC lag? So I'm not. I guess I'd have to understand better what you're trying to set up. Without understanding your setup, I can't easily answer the question. I will point this out, though. I need to do. I got so many things. This is why I'm always so busy talking about doing videos. This is something I want to talk about, is why we have all these. This is how you can build. Do you notice all these VLANs here? So you have VLAN 101, 102, 103, 104, et cetera, et cetera. there's a methodology I have by which I build the labs. And one of the things I realize a lot of people don't, it's a question that comes up a lot, is people don't realize how easy it is to go through and set up WAN on internal IP addresses. So we actually have WAN Lab 1, WAN Lab 2. We simulate a client's WAN using pfSense. This actually works perfectly fine. So I'm going to do how we build our lab video, but I'll also include how a pfSense video and how to set public IPs. And it's stupidly easy. It's just one of those things that everyone overthinks it. And there's always someone who go, but Tom, did you know you could use BGP and make it really complicated? Absolutely. I know how to make it complicated. People are great at making it complicated. I don't know why they do that, but they can. You absolutely can make this harder than it needs to be. But yeah, the like I said, we have a whole lab setup that we do that allows us to have virtualized pfSense that we assign internally the client's public IP. Then we can tie physical pfSenses to it, build our cluster, do our testing with all the public IP ranges, ship them to the client, and plug them in. It's a process that makes life so much easier, because that way there's all the testing, all the setup, the VPN or whatever's related between all those IP addresses. Usually it's VPN. We can lab it, build it, match their network externally and internally, and then have a complete setup that absolutely just works. And it's one of those things that I don't know why more people didn't do it. I don't think of myself as particularly innovative on these things until I realize that people are kind of like, a lot of people just like, no, it can't work that way. I'm like, well, we've been doing this for years. Like this makes it a lot easier to get things done. Oh, we got client IPs on it right now, so I can't show it. I'll swap the client IPs off of it. I mean, they're not in use right now. I could probably just do it. I'll do it later when I do the video. I don't want the client IPs on here, but it's really simple once you learn how it works. I'll diagram it all out to kind of make it a lot easier. Getting prepared to let the bird out of the oven and get the sharp implements out and working on it. I'm going a different route on that. So let me this is what I got. I got the smoker going. That's a nice pork. And then this morning I was looking through logs. You know, I had to look through a lot of logs this morning. You know, because that's the thing. Yeah, I have some friends that are smoking turkeys. I don't feel like smoking a turkey. Not on my to-do list. But with that, I think I'm going to run to the all running 10 gigs, but the storage is where you really need it. Yes. Oh yeah, I am punny all the time. If I can definitely. None of the logs are gray. They're not gray at all. Did you ever have issues with Tailscale DNS? I tried Tailscale, but for the love of God, couldn't get DNS to work. I'm a senior network engineer, tried everything on the internet. I've opened up my Tailscale. I have no problems working DNS because, let me see, hold on. The trick is I have split DNS set up. This is why I don't have any problems. That is a DNS server for anything.lawrencesystem.com. The reason I do that is so I can override the things I care about for DNS. So if actually you guys can't see the URL, but the URL for Zen Orchestra, these are internal. I use HA proxy. zenorchestra.lawrencesystem.com gets you there. But obviously, VPN is step 1, step 2, DNS. Split DNS, check the box, works every time. Not had a problem with it at all. And then this, of course, is my internal DNS server that answers the question of where those are. So that's in my go-to. You can do LACP. If one link goes down, but the same IP as reachable, yeah, I mean, you can do LACP, but yeah, the link aggregation is supported for both XCP-ng or TrueNAS. I don't remember which thing you asked about, but the answer is yes, both support it. The likelihood of a network card going bad, extremely low. It's just on my list of tickets and the thousands of tickets that we have at CNWR for problems we have at clients. Network interface card going bad, pretty damn rare. Never zero, but extremely rare. I see a lot of people get like overly concerned with that as a failure mode, and it's not a non-existent failure mode. It's just a very uncommon failure mode. What else did I talk about? I think I got to reach the end here because I have to go deal with the pork I'm smoking. Then I got people coming over, so that's a thing as well. Yeah, I mean, by the time the network card overheats, there's usually other things overheating. So the network card could overheat, but it's not the most common. Usually there's some other problem and other things are overheating at that same time. So yeah, it can happen. But yes, that's a thing. Yeah, I am going to bounce because there's still stuff I have to prepare, stuff I have to do. I do have some people coming over. Cool. Oh yeah, if there's the ones that have fans on them. I don't think any of the ones I have, even the 25 gig ones I have, don't have fans on them. I imagine the older ones are like that. So yeah, anything fast has thermal issues, no doubt. Yeah, if I go over here to the hosts, one of the things that we have is the networking on this. We've got this all at 25 gig networking. So we've got 25 gig between all the devices. It's nice because when you want to move a virtual machine, you do, if your storage is often more the bottleneck. Unless you have NVMe storage, 25 gig is hard to saturate with spinning rust. Not impossible if you have enough cached data on there, but yeah. But thank you everyone for joining. I could babble on forever, but I know I won't get other things done. So I'm going to stop here. Thanks everyone for joining, and I will catch you next time.